supervision. This has also, there was a study about 5 years back which I did in Toyota, and I found that this was a case which is very true. When there are women in the departments, the case of safety is much lower because they take care of everything. They're very meticulous and organized. And difficulty scaling, we have 70% women workforce who are untapped. So this is one real good reason why, and our sector is growing so high. So this is a place where you can actually draw the workforce from. So this, I rest my case there. But what is MRAI doing? So, the lessons learned is definitely gender inclusivity is the fastest route to have this kind of leapfrogging possibility. And what has MRAI done? Last year, we, as Kajal mentioned, we had the first meeting of this Women in Recyclers unit. And after that, we had because we know that a lot of women are coming into this. So the workforce, how do we build empowerment? How do we build capacity among them? So we had a program, 24 women employees were trained by CIPIT. We made modules for them, and they just yesterday it got completed, and they have all got certification. This is a government certification, and they learned a lot. So the second one, yesterday we started Imrc with a real good positive note. That was, we had 800 plus women students in a university here, where we had, this was mainly as an industry academia interaction, mainly to encourage these students to take up recycling as a career option, and also to look at entrepreneurship opportunity in recycling. So this again was a very good option. So thank you. And let's have today, more than all these case studies, if you actually hear the women directors who are in our panel, I'm sure by the end of the day, when you move out of this room, you will understand why we should have women and why we should have this inclusivity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Benisha ma'am, for setting such a clear and strong context. So Professor Benisha is an environmental field scientist with over 30 years of experience in sustainability, waste management, and the circular economy. She is the consultant circular economy to MRAI, executive director of the International Institute of Waste Management, and a professor of practice. She has advised key national bodies including DST, CSIR, the Office of PSA, and the National Green Tribunal. Professor Benisha has worked closely with global agencies such as the World Bank and the UN bodies, and has played a key role in formalizing informal e-waste recyclers across India. She is a recipient of Nari Shakti Puraskar 2024 and is recognized among India's 75 women in science. Welcome, Benisha ma'am. So now I would like to invite our panelists on stage. I'll introduce each of them briefly as I request them to join us. First, I would like to invite Ms. Robin Wiener, President of Recycle Material Association, REMA. With over 3 decades in the recycling industry, Robin leads REMA representing more than 1,600 companies and work at the forefront of advocacy, compliance, and global industry engagement. Please welcome Ms. Robin Wiener. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Susie Barrage, President of Bureau of International Recycling. Susie is a global voice of recycling, actively representing the industry across international platforms and highlighting the critical role of recycling in climate action and net zero goals. Please welcome Ms. Susie Barrage. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Hemil Gandhi, Executive Director at GRP Limited, a global leader in sustainable materials, where she leads key business verticals including polymer composites, people development, culture, and CSR, and has played a major role in GRP transition towards a purpose-driven circular economy model. Please welcome Ms. Hemal Gandhi. Joining us next is Ms. Vedshi Arya from Utkarsh TMT Group. Vedshi represents the new generation of leadership in the steel manufacturing sector and is currently a director at Utkarsh TMT, one of Gujarat's leading integrated steel manufacturers. She is closely involved in shaping strategy, strengthening operations, and bringing a strong focus on sustainability and governance as the company moves towards a more future-ready approach. Welcome, Vedshi. Next is Ms. Anya Gupta. Anya is a part of second generation at PGI Group, a global leader in sustainable metal recycling and operations across more than 60 countries. Her work spans metal procurement, sales strategy, AI enablement, and new development initiative with strong exposure across yards, plant, and global market. Welcome, Anya. Joining us next is Karvi Agrawal. Karvi is a part of promoter family of Gravita India Limited, one of India's leading global recycling companies. At Gravita, she worked closely on operations, process optimization, digitization, and plant efficiency, supporting the company's sustainability and long-term growth journey with a background in finance and economics. Welcome, Karvi. With a background in finance and economics, Karvi brings a data-driven and future-focused perspective to recycling. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Nanika Chadda. Nanika is a third-generation leader at VK Metcas Private Limited, one of India's leading zinc recycling and secondary zinc alloy manufacturing companies. She is deeply involved in day-to-day factory operations, labor management, and marketing, bringing a strong on-ground manufacturing perspective to the recycling industry. Welcome, Nanika. Now joining us, Juveria Bhavnagarwala, founder at Oilenza Trading LLC, a UAE-based startup working in used cooking oil, recycling, and sustainability biofuels. As a young entrepreneur, Juveria is building circular economy solutions that convert waste into clean energy, with a strong focus on ethical sourcing and environmental compliance. Her work reflects how innovation and structured recycling models can turn UCO from a waste challenge into a renewable energy opportunities. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us. Before we begin the panel discussion, I would like to invite Ms. Susie Barrage, President of BIR, to share a brief keynote reflection on women leadership in the global recycling ecosystem. Susie, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. It's a true privilege to stand before you today at MRII's International Material Recycling Conference here in the vibrant city of Jaipur. And it is such an honor to be a part of this session hosted by this incredible group of women in recycling, where we will talk about change and the next steps for our dynamic industry. Just as Jaipur is known for its rich heritage and dynamic innovation, so too is our industry, which we know is a cornerstone of sustainability and circular economy practices globally. Ours is an industry of entrepreneurism, of continual innovation. It is rooted in internationalism and cross-border collaborations. And at its heart are the brilliant professionals who keep us moving forward. But I want to be transparent with you, to be straightforward and honest, and address the elephant in the room. We are an industry with a perception problem. Where most people outside our industry think of recycling, they conjure up images of outdated processes, dirty environments, and old-fashioned views of those who work on the front line of sorting, delivering, and trading. Yet, I stand before you as proof that our industry is anything but that. How many of us look like the perceived or traditional image of a recycler? I cannot see one. Indeed, this room is full of recycling professionals that represent the very best of our industry. Today's recycling sector is dynamic, innovative, and integral to the circular economy and the future of sustainable practices. As a collective of dedicated professionals here in this room today, we have the power to shift outdated perceptions. We know that recycling is not just about processing resource. It's a sector filled with opportunities for education, entrepreneurship, innovation, and impactful leadership roles. And as a collective, we actively contribute to several UN Sustainable Development Goals. We create jobs within the circular economy, our industry helps support thriving communities, and we build innovative solutions that benefit both businesses and the environment. As we all know, recycling is inextricably linked to sustainability. By reusing existing materials instead of extracting new ones, we significantly reduce environmental impact, conserve natural resources, and lower energy consumption. This is not just a contribution to profitability, it is the backbone to the circular economy, where waste is minimised and materials are perpetually repurposed. And we know this, and we celebrate this together, but are we telling the wider world? Thank you.
Thank you, Susie ma'am. To begin the discussion, I'll start with a common opening question, especially for our next generation leaders, and then we'll move into more specific perspective. So, as part of the next generation in recycling and core industries, each of you is bringing a fresh perspective. I would like to start by understanding what your journey has looked like so far and how you see the industry evolving today. Betsy, I'll start with you.
First of all, I would like to thank Benisha ji, Kajal, and everyone involved for setting up this panel discussion. Well, my journey has been an adventure, an enjoyable one for sure, and I'm very grateful for it. Today, in the steel manufacturing sector, there is a renewed focus on cost efficiency across the production process. Raw material processing, more specifically scrap sorting and processing through various equipment and machinery setup, is very fast growing in steel manufacturing, steel melting plants such as ours. It is coming up like a backward integrated industry in itself, in its own right, for manufacturing plants today. Also, there is a very strong push towards energy efficiency in the steel melting sector, with large-scale solar plants being set up and to a smaller extent, even wind power plants being set up across many states of the country, which is bringing down the energy costs quite significantly. With all of these focuses on raw material processing efficiency, on energy efficiency, definitely we are optimizing the value chain today like never before. So I see this as a very beneficial evolution in this industry for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Edshi. Now, Anya, coming to you.
Hello. Thank you, Kajal, and thank you so much for having me here. So this might be a bit controversial, but what excites me the most is that the industry is becoming less forgiving. And I think margins have become smaller, customers expect more, and mistakes have become more expensive. But I think this complexity is not really a barrier, it's more of a filter. Let's just look at AI and technology. When I say AI, most people assume ChatGPT. And I think that is just the tip of the iceberg. So at PGI, we have really focused and emphasized a lot on AI. And we've recently introduced CRM as a central operating system in our company that allows us to focus more on the bottom line instead of just the top line volumes or sales, which is again an industry norm. It helps us analyze profitability by material, by country, by supplier, by customer. And again, a lot of our trade conversations happen over WhatsApp. And this information is often lost, and we can't really capture and analyze it. So this tool has really helped us make data-backed and I think strongly informed decisions. And we're really shifting our conversation from how much did we sell to how much did we actually make. And again, due to the globalized nature of our trade, there's often a lot of pressure on documentation and back office teams. So we have also introduced AI agents and chatbots that help us reduce the manual error, increase processing cycles, and again, reduce a bit of that burden on them. So I think that has been a great shift for us as well. And I think lastly with technology, technology is again integral. There's so many things coming up. We are really investing in technologies that help us with scrap preparation and focusing a lot on the input of our material that we're putting into our furnaces or that we're sort of selling. And I think that's helped us extract more value from the material and also learn to handle mixed or more complex sort of types of scrap. And I remember as I was growing up, I always heard that, we're recyclers, we do good for the environment, we're so sustainable. But I feel that was always economic sustainability that we were actually talking about. But now I see a real shift in our industry from a trading mindset to a real recycling and processing mindset. And I think, companies that sort of adapt and modify systems according to this will continue to lead. And that creates a great space for, the next generation to come in and create a real impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Kavi, building on that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much to MRAI, and a special thank you to Professor Benisha for bringing all of us here for such an important conversation. For my journey, I sort of grew up in recycling, but my real journey started about a year and a half ago, and it's truly been transformative and extremely hands-on. I chose to start at the shop floor, and I started visiting factories and started looking at our international operations, especially all our factories in Africa, our yards, our smallest scrap collection points. I spent a lot of time at our Dar es Salaam yard and understood how a small 100 kg, 200 kg battery transaction is actually taking place. How are vendors negotiating? How are they building trust within each other? How is the whole supply chain working around that? Alongside, I was also learning plant operations here in India. And now I'm deeply involved in the next biggest upcoming project for Gravita. So my journey has been super hands-on and has been inspirational and transformative for me personally. For how the industry has evolved, in one line, I'll say it's transformed from fragmented, informal, sort of invisible, to institutional. And in my view, the biggest change has come from policy, especially policies like extended producers' responsibility that were only meaningfully implemented in about year 2022, where producers actually have the responsibility for scrap collection and end-of-life recycling. And for companies like Gravita, this means so much more volume, growth, transparency, discipline, and now we can invest with a longer-term horizon. So policy together has changed the game for recycling, and I'm sure in the coming years, sky is the limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavi. So, Nanika.
So I come from a very, very traditional family business background that was started by my grandfather in 1963. So you can only imagine the kind of evolution. Can you hear me now? Okay. So can you guys hear me now? So you can only imagine the kind of evolution that I've seen, that I've heard from my grandfather and my father, and the stuff that I will be seeing as I implement more things. So I feel like recycling was initially seen as a very side or a very back-end activity, but now slowly it's turning into a more strategic industry. And it's not just about waste management or scrap management anymore. It's about so much more. It's about like reducing your dependency on imports. It's about investing more in R&D. It's about creating more job opportunities. But more than that, I think it's also about, and most importantly, actually, it's about investing more and more into supporting India's manufacturing growth. And you know, the more I started from the shop floor, and I still work there, and I'm heavily hands-on over there, and I feel from my grandfather's time to now mine, I see more emphasis being put on like labor safety, labor concerns, and safety of their well-being, and more into standardized and more optimized ways of working. So when it comes to that, I feel like we need to, the investment lies more in upskilling them and making them more efficient, because when you're manufacturing, and like when you have a unit like mine who has a lot of who have a lot of workers, so I think it's very important that as the business grows, they also grow with you. So it's not just a very one-sided thing. And now, as I enter the industry, I see more and more women as process managers, as import documentation leads, and so much more. Like, women are more inspired out there. And the whole point is to have and give and invite more autonomy in this industry. So you can see this panel, it's all full of women, and women have always thrived here. But I think the best part is that they're finally being recognized, where recognition was long due. And the more, like as the new generation have entered, I think it's very important to continuously make this industry more and more accessible and inviting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanika. Now coming to you, Juveria. What's your experience?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone here in MRI and for inviting me here in the Women Recycling Catalyst and giving me the chance to share my journey with everyone here. Well, my journey started when I noticed that the oil is being thrown away by restaurants and food businesses, even though it has a real value behind it when collected properly. Coming from a recycling background and following my family legacy in recycling, I'm not focused on just collecting waste or recycling waste, but to bring responsibility and structure into this industry. I believe today in recycling is moving beyond technology, and it is beyond sorting waste. It has been more advanced, using technology for working faster and accurately. Moving more faster and accurately. It has companies now also designing new products, so that could be more easier for them to reuse in the start. And I believe that overall recycling is being more cleaner and more smarter, and it's more important for our environment to protect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Juveria. Now we'll start with our second round. And so I'll start with Robin ma'am. Robin ma'am, from your experience, certification and compliance have become increasingly important for the industry. How have certification helped improve governance and trust in recycling ecosystem?
Can you hear me now? Okay. I actually want to focus on one of the other words in your question about compliance. Because when we think about compliance, what we're talking about, at least in the US, we focus on safety, workforce safety, as well as environmental compliance. And safety is a core value for the industry. It's, if you look at REMA's own mission statement, we talk about that our purpose is to promote safe, economically sustainable and environmentally responsible recycling. And we do that with a number of tools, and certification is certainly one of those tools. And there are a number of certification programs out there. As a matter of fact, I was walking the hall, the exhibit hall for this convention, and I saw R2 Rios R2 rather, has a booth. It's a wonderful certification program offered through SERI, which is, I think, the Sustainable Electronic Recycling Associate, or they're not an association, but institute, and they sponsor the R2 certification, which is a phenomenal certification for those in the environment, the electronics recycling space. And there are over 1,000 companies around the world that are certified to it, and it has helped, along with other certification programs like RIOS, the Recycling Industry Operating Standard, developed actually by REMA, or a predecessor, ISRI, what we were called before. The certification programs have been indispensable for helping raise standards and providing basically a foundation for what needs to be done to ensure compliance and systems. These are usually systems-based within a facility. They work best when there is a market which is pushing it, and that's why in the electronics segment of the industry, we're seeing certification being much more taken on, because that's where the OEMs and others have really demanded certification. The other tools that are relied upon in other sectors of the industry are a lot of tools provided by our associations. So I know, for example, at REMA, we take, as I said, safety as a core value. So we have dedicated staff that are developing training systems, resources, manuals, online tools, et cetera, that all help make sure that every day all the workers come into the facilities, leave the facilities just as they entered. And so we put a high value on that. And then in the environmental side, we also provide a lot of assistance in that area as well.
Thank you, Robin, ma'am. Next, Susie, ma'am, you have worked across the global recycling ecosystem for many years. From your experience, how has women participation and leadership evolved internationally?
Well, I've been involved with the recycling industry for over 30 years now. I've been working in it. But I was first elected to the British Metal Recycling Board 12 years ago now. And at that time, I was the first woman to have been elected to be on the board. And then 2 years later, I was elected to be their president. So that was a great thing. And then in 2023, I was very lucky to be elected to be the president of the Bureau of International Recycling, which is the world body. And unfortunately, I am the only woman on their executive committee. But we're hoping to change that within the committees now. There are a lot more women within the committee, the various divisions. So that's really good news. At the recent events last year, we hold 2 conventions a year. I think we had, nearly 200 women attend, which was really phenomenal. So the numbers are really increasing. I remember sort of when I first joined the industry, I'd go to an event, there'd probably be me and maybe one other there. So we're really seeing significant progress. Still much to do. Representation is probably about 10-15% at maximum in some events, but we're going in the right direction. And as you ladies here today are proving, we've got such a wonderful group following us, haven't we, Robin? That I've no fears for the future.
Thank you for sharing that, ma'am. Next, Hemal, ma'am, you work very closely with operations as well as long-term strategy. How do you balance operational challenges while still driving sustainable growth?
I think firstly, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you for attending this. It gives us a lot of courage and hope that women will have a great space here. I think going before to the question, I wanted to also kind of spell out here to say that while GRP is, been in the industry for, over 5 decades, I do realize that women do not lack ambition. We lack designed opportunity. There are often times when, I'm at plants and I'm speaking to women over there, I feel we need an empathetic listener. While a lot of us did speak a lot of the problems we face, I'd also like to share with you a lot of the solutions that I believe as an organization we've tried to partake in. Just to give you an example, with a lot of the infrastructure development, with a lot of safety measures, happy to report that 60% of my patch cutting raw material yard has women now. Also, our packaging, we have more than 30% women there. In our production lines, on our shop floor, we have more than 15 to 18% women. Why I'm giving you the numbers is that it is possible. It is possible for women to be able to drive not only support functions, but also leadership functions. Through a lot of intervention, through a lot of awareness, through operational challenges that we've gone through, we recognize how and when we can change. So, you know, I often say this, let's move from a fixed mindset to a more learning and growth mindset. And how can we do that? We become enablers. You know, we use technology, we use SOPs, the KPIs, and ensure that women are also up there, you know, along with men and get equitable chances. Also to, answer her question, a lot of the initiatives that we take around operational challenges, you know, simple things like, the women at, when I went to the plant early on in my career, interactions, giving an empathetic ear, listening to them, I think is something that all leaders should follow. And they said it's a lot of bending for us, a lot of heavy lifting for us. And we said, why don't we just get a conveyor belt? It'll just become a little bit easier for them. We had so many places where there was no shade. And, sometimes we forget these small nuances, small initiatives that can drive women to be equally, present in these kind of situations. So, safeties, up until now, we never had a second and a third shift. Now we've had those shifts because we have compliances in place, we have, commutes in place. So we're ensuring that, we avail of crash facilities. We have something what we call the nap time, which I'm very proud of. At the HO, we have 1:40 to 2 p.m. every day, the lights are off, and we have nap time. Early on, a lot of them sniggered, laughed, but then eventually realized that it's a great science, that 20 minutes of power naps really help. So just very small initiatives which help basically us achieve at GRP, and I think for call to action for the sector, I think government and policy changes, which I think MRI is really looking to work towards. Panels where, women and men are integrated together. This is great, but it would be great for us to have an opportunity to be with the men. But yeah, that's some of the challenges, but I also wanted to highlight the solutions, and I'm really proud of what all of us are doing here in the women's space. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hemal ma'am. Now, coming to Benisha ma'am. Ma'am, you have worked closely with policies, institution and grassroots work. From that experience, how do you see women participation shaping up in the recycling sector?
Thank you, Kajal. In fact, after listening to all of them, this particular question on why, how policy can actually enable women to work better is, I think one of the panelists already mentioned that EPR brought in a big change. And now Hemal was mentioning about how technology interventions are actually enabling women to come in. These two aspects, in fact, have been introduced. I was part of the drafting of these laws. In fact, a lot of discussion was there as to why should we insist on certain technology, like, whether it's depopulation or whether even conveyor belts or, wire stripping. So one real, I'm happy that we actually introduced saying that for each of the recycling sector, some, mentioned technology, which is not a convention in while drafting policies. But we introduced that, we said at least initial few years we should have it so that these kind of, making women also enter into the field becomes easy. It was not thought of at that time, but now when I think back, I feel that was a very good decision. Because now I have seen also one of the visits where we had conveyor belts where it was at a very high platform, and women had to stand on some makeshift kind of a jugaad place and then use it. So, even though technologies are there, these kind of issues are still there because we don't have that many women coming in. So there will also be a technology shift. I've also been thinking of a policy where we have separate, like how we have left in, right hand people how to use certain equipments and all that. Similarly, there are certain things where for women, it enables them to do better, especially PPEs, because most of our PPEs are actually meant for men. So these kind of enabling laws are something which we are now thinking about. And AI, of course, I think one of you really mentioned, this is definitely a leveler. And once AI comes in, I think we don't have any gender difference. And that's where we actually aim for, because we need such policies. So one area where really AI can do wonders is recycling sector, because it's a lot to do with data, and that's where women can really get in. So I feel policy is something which was really useful, and I see the benefits now more when I see women entering this field. I hope I answered that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benisha ma'am. Now, coming to Vedshi, from your perspective in the steel sector, what technical or operational shifts are more critical for making core industries future ready? And how can New Year leadership voices contribute meaningfully to driving this change?
Well, the global average finished steel consumption per capita is around 230 kgs. We, that is India, have only recently crossed the 100 kg mark. And according to our Ministry of Steel, our target is to reach around 160 kgs by 2030, which is still well below the global average. These statistics clearly show us the immense growth potential that is there in India, in the steel segment of India. In my opinion, in order to maximize on this growth potential, we as steel and allied industry should focus on narrowing the focus down and in scaling it up. We should take a page from China's book. Well, only a page, mind you, but from their growth strategy. As we discussed earlier, the industry currently is already focusing on cost efficiency across the production process, whether it is raw material or energy, which is another raw material for our industry. And now with this efficiency, in order to maximize on the optimization already taking place, we should focus on narrowed scalability. Yes.
Thank you, Vedshi. Now coming to Anya, with your exposure across India and international markets, how does women's participation and leadership differ across these ecosystems? And what personally helped you adapt and lead across geographics?
Okay, so one of my favorite parts about my role is the opportunity to travel and really understand the social and cultural differences across regions. My first business trip, I remember this really clearly, was to China. I went for a conference, and I was so happy and fascinated to see so many women trading, actively involved in plants, operations, decision-making. And this wasn't something specially done. It was just something very, very normal. And I believe it's because the ecosystem over there is so competence-driven. If you know your material, the specs, the commercial outcomes of different decisions, I mean, that is more than enough. And for them, I think in some of the cultures, China, Europe, the US, when I visited it, I think that is what you tend to see. Contrastingly, where I predominantly work, the Middle East, I live in the UAE, that's where I operate out of, there's a very big difference. I think it's because, like Susie mentioned, there's still a bit of a perception problem that the industry is very, manual, dirty, labor-intensive, and this perception has not caught up with the reality of the situation because our industry now is so systems and, technology-driven. So, yeah, definitely there is a very big difference across different cultures, and the difference is more on how you earn your credibility rather than opportunity, I feel. It's more on what you have to do to be taken seriously. But I don't really want to focus on the challenges that we face because I'm sitting on a panel with women who've been in this industry for decades longer than I have, and they've not gotten this far by doing that. So I'll move on to the second half of the question. How have I adapted and what has helped me lead? This has been mentioned a few times, but to be on the shop floor, really understand your material, your quality, your people, your technology. And when I joined the family business, the first few months, that's all I did. I worked with the operators, the supervisors, and it really helped me now that I sit in an office to know what they're talking about when they mention certain things or when they make certain decisions. I know exactly what they're referring to and what they're talking about. So I think be competent by growing your knowledge of the industry, of the specific aspects that we're dealing with. And it helped me gain a lot of confidence in myself, and I think it allowed other people to also have confidence in me through that process. So yeah, I think that would be my biggest recommendation.
Thank you, Anya, for sharing that. Now, my next question is for Kavi. From your perspective, how has technology enabled more women to play a stronger role in the operational and process-driven environments within recycling?
Thank you, Kajal. I think technology has not just changed recycling, it's really changed who recycling is possible for. And for a long time, we've all seen the sector as male-dominated, quite labor-intensive, heavy lifting, furnaces, high temperature. But this personal anecdote really changed how I see things. And initially, when I started visiting other recycling units to understand the business better, I noticed something familiar. There were women present, but only in functions like HR, documentation, maybe finance. And this one woman really changed my perspective. I went to visit Gravita's Ghana plant last year, and I noticed this young woman, Rebecca, I think her name was standing next to her furnace with her little SCADA system, her tablet, managing her entire production material movement on her system. She knew all her important numbers, her productivity, her recovery for it, for all her costing, when her batch was going to end. She had robotic arms next to her, feeding into the conveyor systems, that going into the automated braking systems. And I spoke to her after seeing all of this, and she told me, Karvi, we used to feel the material earlier, now I just have to read it. And that really has stuck by me and changed my perspective completely. And honestly, it's not just about technology at the shop floor. I was also speaking to Susie last night at dinner, and she mentioned that it's so much more about connectivity, AI, internet. We don't need to be in China to make trade deals or to have a connect in China or Africa or the USA. So connectivity and internet has changed so much and enabled women so much. Lastly, I also want to mention about the talent pool itself. Right? If you look at India versus 2 decades ago, India produces around 10 million engineers every year, out of which now 30% are women, which is a big transformation from 20 years, right? And that means there's so much more talent for the recycling industry to absorb. So just with the technology change at the shop floor, with so much connectivity, AI, internet, and all the talent pool itself, again, there's no reason why recycling can't be bigger and better.
Thank you, Karvi. Now, my next question is to Nenika. Nenika, having taken charge of on-ground operations early in your career, how has this shaped your understanding of the business? And how do you see your role evolving as you grow within the organization?
Thank you. So, like you said, I started on the shop floor very early in my career, and it helped me understand a lot of things about the business that my grandfather built, like a lot of process bottlenecks, about the labor safety concerns and issues, and how important like consistency, compliancy, and quality is for my day-to-day operations. So as and when I grow into the business, I realized that I want to continue to keep investing in like skill development and training. So when we talk about these things, it's not just about, having a machine and training your labor workforce about, this is the machine and this is what you have to do. It's about focusing on their capabilities and focusing on their growth, and not just about the machine, but it's also about upskilling them and making them understand the process end to end. And more than this, as I've evolved in the business, I realized that, as I mentioned, I come from a very traditional family background. And one thing I realized being a marketing student was how important marketing today is in this today's day and age. And we really miss out on it. So one thing I realized that I have a really strong product, for instance, and I have a really strong story and a legacy. But all I had to do was market the two and two together so people know me more out there. And we keep continuously talking about how we want the newer generation to come and enter this industry and make a difference. But the newer generation is sitting out there on social media, scrolling through Reels, scrolling through LinkedIn, and that's where exactly we all need to be. So, like I said, it needs to be more accessible and more inviting. And if we want the newer generation to come, I think social media is a very, very good tool to bring them on board. And lastly, I just want to say something that, my grandfather always said two things. Firstly, he always says that the dust in our factory is never to be broomed outside. It's always to be broomed inside of the factory, because everything is valuable and recyclable, even specks of dust. And secondly, that the learning in this industry never ends. It's always ongoing, and I think that is something, if the newer generation understood that the work that we do is really critical and not very side or back-end activities anymore, I think that would be it'll be more inviting for them to come and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nainika, for sharing your experience. Now, my next question is for Juveria. Juveria, you are working in a relatively new recycling stream, like used cooking oil. How can young startups bring structure and trust into emerging recycling sectors?
Well, my interest in oil recycling came from identifying a failure point, not just the waste issue. The used cooking oil is produced daily from restaurants and food businesses. And as I already mentioned, that it is already ends up in unsafe channels and being wasted, even though it has a real value behind it. I feel that this could lead to something which I could change, but due to the absence of compliant and organized collection system, it's not just getting wasted, but the trust that is broken across the entire downstream chain. At the same time, the global demand for biofuel is growing quickly. That contrast actually made me realize that the challenge is not the availability of the feedstock, which is the oil stock, but the structure and the trust at the sourcing stage. If the sourcing goes wrong, nothing downstream can scale, neither compliant and investment or the market confidence. From my experience in used cooking oil industry, I have seen even smaller issues like irregular pickups or mixed oil quality or missing records can turn into bigger risk as the business the volume grows by time. And I believe that once the trust is lost at this level, it is very hard to rebuild it. So, however, startups can bring structure by professionalizing the basics from the beginning, standardizing the collection practices, and maintaining transparency and following the compliance, even at a small scale. And in this oil recycling industry, innovation is beyond technology. It comes from practicing practical and repeatable system that deliver results as they scale, which is being consistent enough when you're growing. And what really makes a difference is that turning discipline into scale and reliability into real impact. That's what separates sustainable growth from short-term activity. And I also believe that no matter what recycling industry you come from, either metal, paper, or biofuel, I believe that if we come together as a group, we can make the change and be a good leader for being an amazing role model for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Juveria. Now we'll start with our third round. And this round focuses on how women step into leadership roles within recycling through experience, decision making, and long term influence. So I'll ask a common question to all the seniors. From each of your experiences, how do you think women participation in the recycling sector can be increased? I'll start with Robin, ma'am.
Sure. Senior is a term that we're not going to define for now. Yeah, right, it's not the age. First of all, I think what we're doing here is a great start. It's really important. You mentioned role models. It's very important. We've also heard the word visibility used, to provide the visibility and to show women that it's possible to be up here. And if there aren't people, and if it's all men on the panels, then that becomes a challenge. And I'll never forget, and I'll share a little quick story. When I started in this role, and I was still at the early stages of it, and I was at a local chapter meeting, and I was very nervous, and I had to practice my presentation. So what do you do when you have to practice a presentation before a speech? You go to the women's room, because there's not going to be any other women there, right? So you got a room there for yourself. So I'm practicing, and but a woman walks into the bathroom, and she sees me, and I'd never met her before, and she tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "I want you to know how important it is for me to see you up there." And I had never thought about that before. And it was really humbling, but I think about that constantly. And so that's why it's so important to have panels where there are women in the panels as well, to have committees, board meetings, whatever it may be, where women are also in the mix. They should be capable, and they are, and they should be there because they're qualified. But they also provide encouragement to the next generation and to those who might feel a little reticent to raise their voice. And they have a lot to say, and we want to hear them, and we'll benefit from that. So I think providing that visibility is really key. I think that's one of the most important things you can do.
Thank you so much, Robin, ma'am. Now, Susie, ma'am.
Yes, I want to echo totally what Robin said, that visibility is so important. And for me personally, when you're at, it's usually in the ladies' washroom, that women come to talk to you and they say, "Oh, I'm so inspired to meet you. It's so great to see that, you're taking a leadership role." And for me, I've just done what I wanted to do. I'm very passionate about the industry, and I wanted to represent the industry, and I didn't consider my gender, but that has been such an added benefit for other ladies to come up to you and tell you how you inspire them. I can't tell you how much that gives you a buzz. It's a tremendous feeling. And then also what the ladies were saying earlier about competency, that's really important. When I started in the industry, I made sure that, I worked in the yard. I learned about transportation. I learned about the environmental laws, basically so the men couldn't bluff me, but that's what I recommend. But definitely visibility. If you are a woman in this industry, please put yourself on social media, get yourself out there so that other women can join this fabulous industry.
Well, ma'am, your experience.
Thanks for this very pertinent question. I think, as always, I want to give the slight solutions or the impact positive, what GRP stands for. For us, very early on in my career, I realized that women need space in this industry. And what we did was we went to a lot of schools, international, ICSE, regular schools, and we had conversations about recycling, about circularity, and this was many, many years ago. And little girls would come up, grade 8, grade 9 would say, it's so good to know that someone like you is doing this, and can we have this as part of our curriculum? And I thought that was the real onset of how we can imbibe these kind of curriculum in schools. Very recently, we hosted a hackathon. We had about 11 universities participating in this. A lot of the students were called to our factories, and they were given material to play with. And they said, what do we do with this? I said, that's for you to think. And this is what my material, what my product is, what the quality is, what sustainability is. Can you make something out of it? And they made relevant products. And I'm happy to report there were 3 stars of the show, and the university that won, there were 3 women who won that. And they came up to me and they said, we've never thought of recycling or operations. They're all engineers in the making. And we never thought that women could do this. And because you're here sharing with us all these anecdotes, we're happy to be partaking in this industry. So I also feel that how do we build communities? We have CSR initiatives that organizations take up. We do a lot on women education. We do a lot on sustainable livelihood. Again, how do we financially make these women independent? You talk about waste management, you speak to collectors, you speak to regulators, in the policy making. How better can we better the woman quotient in this? And I genuinely feel that, sustainability is really the inheritance we're going to leave behind. So we should really, really put a lot of effort to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hebel ma'am, for sharing your experience. Now, coming to Benisha ma'am, please tell us your experience.
Yeah. More than that, I think, what is the future? Actually, the future is now. And I'm sure all of you agree. By looking at all these panelists, definitely we have a very good future. I mean, not future, we are in it already. We have 8 different sectors, and we actually got all different perspectives also. Some spoke about technology, some spoke about social media, marketing, operations, new startups, Gen Z here, and we have seen it all. We are seniors, but I think I include Hemal also in the Gen Z. So I think it's really great because I'm sure Sanjay ji, here is actually the future. Next IMRC, each one of them are going to be in a panel, and that's, I'm sure you agree totally. Right, yeah. So, yeah, I know. So I'm very happy because, I mean, you're talking about my experience. I have been in the last 30 years, most of the places where I used to be alone, and not just in boardrooms and all that, but that happened much later. But in the community, in all kinds of community, because even in the rural, very rural areas, and everywhere, I used to be almost a single woman, and that too in an Indian condition, because I traveled all over India. But of course, what really drove me was the subject, because this was a subject which was always new, and there was always something which I could offer. So that is the reason I very strongly feel that if women have to be leaders and if they have to really shine, this is a sector for you. And I'm so happy that all of you have chosen this. And I hope in our future, that is because MRAI has already taken a decision that we are going to have in all cities some panels or some kind of an awareness programs. And these are the role models like what you were mentioning. I'm sure one of them comes and speaks, so many ladies will get in and into this sector. So I'm so happy about this entire panel, and I'm sure all of you will agree to this. So future is now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benisha ma'am, and thank you so much to all our panelists for sharing such valuable experience. Before we conclude this session, we would now like to facilitate our panelists. And
we can have 1 or 2 questions at least.
okay, yeah.
If it's not
So
a
we'll
problem.
start with audience interaction. If you guys have any questions, you can please ask. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's more than a question, just a few comments, and congratulations to Benisha and to Kajal to put this together. You remember last year we were in this exact same room, and it was a much smaller roundtable discussion that we had. So this is progress. I assure you on behalf of the board of directors at MRAI that we will incorporate all these suggestions that Kajal has, Benisha has, all the valued feedback. I think Benisha has been working with MRAI for quite a few years now, and I think she's finally found her cause to champion. And we're thankful for that, to bring women forward, to bring leadership forward. So thank you for leading this. One real lacuna that I do see, if you reflect inwards towards the board, is that 25 men and we have one female advisor. So I do think there's a huge gap in women in leadership, and I think the onus is on y'all as well as on us to sort of get this gap closed. And hopefully by next year, we can figure something out where there are more women visible in MRAI, more women visible in MRAI discussions. And I'm sure that this is a challenge and an opportunity both, and I'm sure we can take it together forward, right? So thank you so much again, Benisha.
Thank you so much, sir.
2-3 things I would like to mention here. I remember post-COVID, Benisha called me one fine day. I was not knowing anything about the Benisha. That Sanjay, I'm Benisha from Bangalore, and I thought that was the work. She told me that you are MRE president, and I want to work for e-waste industries, and I'm working in Bangalore and helping this e-waste rag pickers and everyone. So I would like to join MRI. Could you help me to do this? I told Benisha, you are most welcome. And she met me. I invited her to the conference and everything. And now she's really leading the women recycling show. I really congratulate you, Benisha, for leading this show. Now, yesterday, I have seen it personally. And I was there along with Robin and Susie and everyone. 800 young women, girls were there, part of the students program. And we have taught them circular economy, everything. And that was the initiative of the Benisha. Thank you very much, Kajal, for this wonderful. And I would like to motivate you that, Robin, I must mention here, Kajal is a sister of Amar Singh. And Amar Singh family has a 4-member in my MRI office. And it is so beautifully, it's such an important organization. I have got so much good people, Amar, Amit, Kajal, and Naveen. These 4 brothers, sisters are working in the MRE office out of my 50-member team. So thank you very much, Kajal.
Thank you so much, sir.
I also would like to confess and admit here that I will speak about myself. I became a little bit sentiment, saying it's 4 daughters like my here are sitting here. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm just all of us. I see my wife's face. I kiss on her forehead, and so my day starts with a woman. I come back to my, my hall, where I touch feet of my mother. My day starts with my mother. So again, woman. Again, after 2 hours, me and my wife speak to my daughter at her in-laws' place. Again, women in my life. So women are very much important in our life, and I give utmost respect, and I confess that my day, before 10 o'clock, my mother, my wife, and my daughter gives me blessings for the day. So you guys are really doing great work. Thank you so much,
sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
I request our respected board of directors to kindly join us on stage.
There was one question. There was a question there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shruti from SERI. My question is, what are the next steps which we are considering for the upcoming year as women in recycling?
Yeah, if I can answer that. Yeah, one of the decisions that we took even in the board yesterday was that we would be having a lot of programs to really encourage students to get into this recycling sector, because many of them are not aware of what recycling means and what is this industry. And so that's an area where we are going to concentrate. Second thing is we want to really empower women who are already working. So in all different levels of the workforce, We will have some specific programs for them, and like plant visits. We will have specific management leadership programs. We would also have technical sessions. We've already spoken to IITs and NITs, so we would have also special certificate programs for on different technologies for different sectors. So these are some of the activities which we are thinking of currently, because we are still in the nascent stage. And then maybe entrepreneurship, because hackathons already, Hemal has started that activity. So that's also going on, and any other new items, because we will definitely have some programs, or we will have discussions on what to do next, if you want.
I just want to add another suggestion, if I could, which is that while these in-person interactions are fantastic, and certainly we talked about raising visibility and getting more women on panels and on boards, et cetera, I think that there's also one of the things we learned in the United States is that as we were doing women in recycling programs, there's also a junior level of some women who, for whatever reason, they can't travel. They're not given the authorization, there isn't a budget, whatever it might be. And they want to access the network also. They want to eventually advance, et cetera. So also having, whether it's something online or Zoom-based also is also important for that level, so that you don't miss the very junior level.
Definitely.
Created a WhatsApp group, but I think nothing came out after September 25. And now I'm seeing so many activities were already done. I'm like, oh, we don't get an regular up. So I think staying more in touch so that we can exchange our projects and activities also, I think that would be much more helpful for the entire community.
Any other questions?
Hi, everybody. I'd like to hear from both the seniors and the Gen Z, because you've had all these positions in your life. Were you sort of looked down upon because you were a woman? Were your decisions not given enough importance that you think they were supposed to? And how did you navigate that situation? Thank you.
So honestly, I'm really blessed that my parents and my family, they have never, ever discriminated against the fact that I'm a woman or a man. It's the exact same thing for them. If I tell my dad that I'm tired today, I've been in the yard for 4 hours, 5 hours, it's so hot, he's like, I don't care, I've done the same thing. So you have to do the same thing. So I am really lucky that I have that support. I have to admit at the same time that when I do go on that yard, there are a lot of heads that turn. There are a lot of people that, sort of notice, and they might not answer your questions. You ask them things, they might not reply to you properly. They might not want to talk to you. They might not feel comfortable doing that. But you just kind of have to find your own solutions. There's no point in, complaining or reminiscing over the challenges that you face. It's just find solutions for yourself, because you are the only person that can ultimately help yourself. So that's what I have personally learned.
And I'll give you the senior perspective if you want to. Yes, yes, and I've early on in my career that's happened, and to be honest, it's even happened recently. So unfortunately, I don't think this is something that has disappeared over time. I think it's a lot less than it used to be, but it still does happen, and I couldn't agree more with the sentiment that you have to push through it. You have to just be persistent and raise your voice, because your voice is important. Yeah, it's incredibly important. It can be frustrating and it can be painful. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's worth it in the long run.
Can I just add that just embrace that you're different, and that makes you stand out, and use that to your advantage.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle between Gen Z and the seniors, but I'd also like to share that, while we're talking about family lineage and, you're the custodian for the legacy that you have. We're also 5 decades in this. But it's important to voice, like she rightly said, it's important to say that you're different and we're going to make it work. And also upskill yourself, deep dive into what you're doing. It should not be a privilege. It should be something that you've really earned. So my takeaway would definitely be, be on the shop floor like most of these girls are doing, which is fabulous. Go out there, be digitally savvy, be on panels, network. And I have I'm so glad that you brought this up, because MRI has so many women who are so dynamic, but we're not able to connect equally. So I think that's a great feedback. We should be a little bit more available now to give our time, and I'm available, so please do reach out when you need me. Thank you so much, guys, for taking time out, for being here. Handing it over to Kajal. I know everybody's saying it's time out.
I would also like to add a little thing. So your question was about the glass ceiling. I would, on a more positive note, would like to point out that it only takes once to break that glass ceiling. It's all about competence, and only that sustains. So as somebody just mentioned, that it is actually a benefit. When you get to break that glass ceiling, you do leave a lasting impression. So in my experience, instead of seeing anything as a negative bias or a problem, I think it's a blessing. It's more rewarding.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you,
In
Mitzi.
fact, for us, there is a difference between the Gen Z and us, because now I'm very glad that all of them, because even earlier when I spoke to all of them, they said, what is the difference? I mean, there's nothing. Because, so that is a very nice thing to hear, because that means this barrier or this gap has actually reduced. When we started, maybe there was. I was a bit different, because for me, I somehow never perceived it, because I was always only thinking about the subject. So whether I'm a woman, whether I'm a man, I didn't really feel that, because it was always the subject, and in India always that was different. So everybody looked up when I'm talking to them, whether it's government or whoever. So I did not really feel that I was, although I was alone, I never felt that I was a woman. I always had this problem that the subject was looked down upon. And that is where I used to always fight. Because first day I remember when I went to I was doing biomedical waste management, and I went to a RMO in a very big hospital. And he said, you studied and you're doing this work? What are you wasting your time for? That was the kind of impression which also has changed now. So I never felt I was a woman, and that's why I was looked down upon. But I was in waste management, so I was looked down upon. But anyway, I'm so happy that all of them are not having any kind of difference. So that's really great.
In the interest of time, I'm concluding this session. So,
I would like to answer her question.
yeah, sure.
I completely agree with what Ananya said, that I'm also thankful for having a great family that supports in women and businesses. My dad gave me an opportunity to start a business. Not having his support would never bring me here on this stage. And it's all about raising your voice. In the morning when I came here, there's this guy I met. He said, we are really proud that you are in this industry, because this recycling industry is dominated by male. And I was very surprised to know that, and I want to change that thinking by raising my voice and saying that next time when someone meets me or any women in this industry or anywhere else, they would say that women are also equally there and dominating, or else it's more upper in the level from the men's. Thank you so much.
Now I request our board of directors to kindly join us on the stage for the facilitation.